Often I come across customers that have a large existing application estate that they would like to include in their event portal. They often leverage the Solace Event Portal to provide enterprise-grade tooling around event-driven architecture. But they may have been using Solace for a while without using the event portal, or they might be migrating from some other legacy messaging technology, and they would like to include all of their existing architecture inside of the event portal to leverage things like the designing tools inside of event portal, governance enforcement, robust cataloging, and deployment management for their event-driven architecture. But they face a challenge. They have to get the existing architecture into event portal. They could dispatch their developers to go through the application stack and build out all of the components needed inside of the event portal via the GUI. Or they could offload some of that work to LLMs and take advantage of the Event Portal Designer MCP Server to accelerate this process. So let's take a look at the process of bringing the SCS credit card architecture into the Event Portal, assisted by Claude Code, leveraging the Event Portal Designer MCP Server. Here's a diagram that represents what the SCS credit card architecture looks like. And as we progress through this process, we'll see Claude take a look at the code, extract all of the necessary components, and build them out into an architecture in Event Portal that we can continue to iterate on from there. In a previous video, I showed how to set up the Event Portal MCP server. If you're interested in finding this Event Portal MCP server, you can find it on Solace Labs GitHub under the Solace Platform MCP repository. This is where all of our MCP servers for Solace are housed. Let's take a look at the current Event Portal account that we'll be using. If we go into Designer here, we can see that there's not very much content. There's just an empty test domain that I was using a couple days ago. Before we jump into Claude Code, let's take a look at our repository here, or directory that's housing our SCS architecture. You can see that there's a number of different directories inside here. We've got the fraud detection service, card block service, API error handling service. All of these are built with Gradle, and they're spread out throughout the architecture. Mediator service, orchestrator service. They're all highlighted here on this diagram, and we could take a look at the code here. This might take me a long time to actually go through and understand what's going on in any sort of meaningful way. So we can offload that to our LLM. So if we go ahead and launch into Claude here inside of this directory, I already have the MCP server set up. You can see I'm using the Solace Event Portal Designer MCP. I also have the Context 7 MCP, but I'm not sure that will really come into play this time around. We're going to have to craft a prompt here. Crafting this prompt can take a number of tries or iterations. You're going to want to make sure to capture all of the key points or the things that are important to you and to your team about bringing this application architecture into Event Portal. Important things like naming structure, adhering to your organization's topic structure and versioning approach, building out human readable names, how you would like the LLM to handle challenges that it comes across, what to do if something doesn't work the way that you're expecting it, stuff like don't make any changes or fill in any gaps to the architecture, because all we're trying to do is document at this point. Whatever LLM you're using, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, anything like that, it will try to fill in as many gaps as it can. So you want to give it the best direction out of the gate here. But you can continue to interact with this architecture via, in this case, Claude and the MCP server, as much as you would like to change and move things around, or we could go back into the GUI and fix them afterwards as well. This just puts us in a good place to get started. So I'll kick off the prompt here that I created. Another approach or way that you could handle this would be to tell it to actually do the exploration and create lists of the objects that it's going to create or alter inside of Event Portal. If we had a lot of content inside of Event Portal, or maybe we're going across application domains, we want to do this. We may also want to specify that we don't want to actually modify any other application domains or if we are going to modify other application domains, to prompt me for input so that we can ensure that we're not modifying anything that isn't relevant to our application. Potentially we're getting an event from some other application domain, and we want to just consume that event as it lies in the event portal instead of altering it maybe inappropriately based on the content of our repository here. Event Portal does have very robust safeguards around who can edit what, and if those permissions are in place, there's really nothing to worry about here. But you can approach this more interactively, less interactively, essentially however you would like. Here it's asking to create application domains. I'm going to say yes, and that it can use this tool in the future. Here we're creating a number of schemas, and we're prompted about another tool. We're going to create these schemas inside of Event Portal. Here we're asked to create schema versions. We'll go ahead and say yes, you can use that tool in the future. Now we're creating the actual events that will use the schemas that we have created. Now we'll go ahead and actually create the applications and the application versions for the SCS architecture. Creating the application versions. Processing of the SCS credit card architecture stack has finished. And we've gotten a summary here from Claude about what it did and how it leveraged the MCP server. So we've created an application domain called credit card fraud check, given it a description, and we got an ID back from Event Portal. We have created 9 schemas inside of the Event Portal, 8 events, 6 applications that produce certain events and consume other events. And there were some technical issues that we'll run into, like custom attributes cannot have certain characters in them and are limited to other characters. So we'll have to work around this in some way, or maybe put our link out to these different components in the description. It provided some feedback on the architecture. If we actually change over back to Event Portal, and we'll see that our credit card fraud check application domain was created 6 minutes ago. If we step into here, we'll get some information about Event Portal, and we'll see our architecture laid out for us. The small dots are the events, the larger dots are the applications, and we can see how they're all wired up here. Potentially, the graph will not be this pretty the first time around, and you'll need to refresh the way that it's laid out. This is just sometimes inherent in the way that the components are connected, and you'll recalculate the graph layout, and that'll be no problem. From here, we could continue to iterate on the architecture, use Claude Code and the MCP server to build out new components of this architecture. And we could go through here and ensure that everything was added properly. We could make minor tweaks and adjustments where needed, but this has really accelerated the building of existing architectures inside of Event Portal. What could have taken an engineer a large amount of time to actually go through a code base and build things out via the GUI here in Event Portal has been greatly accelerated by offloading some of that work onto the LLM and allowing the LLM to take advantage of the Event Portal Designer MCP server. Check out other videos in our series to learn what other MCP servers you could leverage from Solace, or you can check out the MCP servers on our GitHub under Solace Labs, Solace Platform MCP, and actually get hands-on with these tools yourself.